The towels were what did it. Not the ones folded neatly on the rack, but the ones she'd left on the floor, carelessly, like she never did. She was meticulous, always the type to smooth out creases even in the bath mat, to fold her robe over the door hook exactly once, never letting it hang limp. But this towel, pale blue with a faint bleach mark on the edge, was bunched near the toilet like someone had tried to kick it out of sight. It was damp, freshly used. And it wasn't hers. She'd taken the kids to her sister's for the weekend. That's what she'd said, left Friday morning, back Sunday night. He wasn't supposed to be home either. Business trip to Philly, booked months ago. But plans changed. The client canceled last minute, and instead of telling her, he drove straight home from the airport Saturday afternoon, looking forward to a beer, the couch, and silence. The house was exactly as it should be. Lights off. No car in the driveway. But the smell hit him when he opened the door. It wasn't cologne. Not exactly. It was muskier. Almost woodsy, but off-brand. Cheap. Like something a teenager would overuse. He thought maybe the neighbor had mowed the lawn and it drifted in, or maybe he was just tired and reading into things. He dropped his bag, went to the kitchen, opened the fridge. Half a six-pack sat where he left it, untouched. He poured a glass of water, leaned against the counter, took a sip, and that's when he noticed the towel, visible just through the cracked bathroom door. At first he thought it was one of the kids. But no, wrong color, wrong size. Then he figured maybe she'd come back early and hadn't told him. So he called her. Straight to voicemail. Twice. He stood there with the phone still in his hand, staring at that towel like it was blinking. It was the only thing out of place in the whole house. The only thing that didn't belong. He didn't move toward it. Didn't touch it. Instead, he walked upstairs. The master bed was made. Her makeup tray looked untouched. But there were 2 coffee mugs in the bathroom, both rinsed, both still faintly warm to the touch. His own coffee machine hadn't been used. He kept going, his body moving while his brain stood back, watching. In the hamper, on top of his daughter's school uniform, was a t-shirt he didn't recognize, a men's medium, gray, with a cracked Adidas logo. It wasn't his. It wasn't her brother's. He hadn't seen it before in his life. He picked it up by the hem like it might burn him. Still warm. The armpits faintly stained with sweat. A thread clung to the collar, long, blonde, and straight. Not her hair. Hers curled at the ends. Always had. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall for maybe 20 minutes. He heard the refrigerator click shut downstairs. Must not have closed it all the way. The sound echoed. He didn't move. He played through it backwards. All of it, in complete silence. The last 2 months. Her sudden interest in yoga. The new phone passcode. The extra showers after gym class. Because the instructor pushes us hard. Her best friend's husband, Rob. Always too friendly. Always there at barbecues. Laughing too loud at her jokes. That night when she lost her wallet and made him double back to the restaurant alone while she waited in the car with Rob, saying, "He offered to keep me company. Don't be weird." He wasn't weird. He was right. He went back downstairs, picked up the towel this time, folded it neatly like she always did, and placed it on the bathroom counter. Then he washed his hands slowly, deliberately, and dried them on the same towel. There was no anger. Just clarity. The kind of clarity that only arrives after something important dies. He poured another glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, and opened his laptop. No searching. He knew exactly where to go. The Brightside Mamas Facebook group. She never shut up about it. "It's just a mom thing. You wouldn't get it," she'd say, chuckling, clutching her phone like it was sacred. He made a burner account, profile picture a dog, bio a bland PDA mom cliché. Sent a few requests. Added some mutuals. No one batted an eye. The group was private, but not hard to infiltrate. They accepted him within an hour. She'd posted recently a picture of the kids, all smiles, captioned, "So grateful for these two. They make everything worth it." He looked at that towel again. The shirt, the mugs, the hair, then back at the post. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He didn't write anything yet. Not yet. He had time. The trick wasn't in the confrontation. It was in the waiting. The cold part. The part where she still thought she'd gotten away with it. That's when the revenge begins. The mornings were the worst. Not because anything obvious happened. Not because she fought or snapped or stormed out. But because she didn't. She was fine. Too fine. She hummed while she made coffee now, little tuneless half-melodies that grated because they didn't belong to her. She was never a morning person. She used to grunt and mumble until her second cup, but now she breezed through the kitchen like someone trying to be noticed in a rom-com, all soft slippers and exaggerated yawns. He'd sit at the table, pretending to read the news, and wonder when she became a stranger who smiled this much. She started calling him babe again. Not warmly, not like before. It came out reflexive, plastic. Like she'd rehearsed it. The word dropped into conversation like a napkin tossed on the floor. Babe, can you grab the milk? Babe, I forgot to move the laundry. She never used it when they were alone in bed. Only when the kids were around. Or when they were in public. It had a performative quality, like a cue line in a play that never quite lands right. And the phone. The phone had become an extension of her. Always in her hand, or tucked screen down under her thigh on the couch. Notifications stopped lighting up. He noticed that. She used to leave it charging on the counter at night. Now it came with her, to the bathroom, to bed, even to the laundry room. Once, she took it with her just to feed the dog. When he made a joke about her finally becoming a true millennial, she laughed, too hard, too long, then said, "Boundaries are good for us. It's healthy." Healthy. That word kept coming up. Along with space, growth, and evolution. She started journaling too. Late at night, had bent over a little navy blue notebook she never let him see. Once, she left it on the nightstand when she went to take a call on the porch. It was always the porch lately, and he reached for it without meaning to. His fingers grazed the cover. Blank. Clean. The kind of surface that dares you to violate it. But he didn't open it. Not then. She came back in mid-sentence, still laughing into her phone, said something about someone named Leah, though no Leah existed in her life. He watched her sit on the edge of the bed, slip the notebook back into the drawer like a nurse replacing a syringe. "Yeah, from the gym," she said, then yawned. You wouldn't know her. Of course he wouldn't. The kids didn't notice. They still ran to her after school, still filled the kitchen with noise and mess, still demanded her attention like always. But she gave it differently now, with just enough enthusiasm to seem normal. Never too much. Never annoyed. And never distracted, except when he was in the room. Then her phone buzzed more. Then her smile slipped faster. Then the joy flattened like air from a balloon left in the sun. One night, he reached for her in bed. Just placed his hand on her waist, nothing more. She flinched, not a violent recoil, but a tightening. Like a muscle flexed without permission. Then she relaxed, too quickly. "Sorry," she whispered. "Just sore from yoga." She hadn't gone to yoga that day. He began noticing other little cracks. Her perfume changed. Her music taste shifted subtly. No more throwbacks from their college days. Now it was soft indie folk she never used to tolerate. She took longer showers but emerged dry-haired. Said she was meditating more. Her eyes never met his for more than a second. One evening, as she laughed too brightly at some late-night show neither of them found funny, he excused himself and walked into the kitchen. Something had pulled at him. He wasn't even sure what. Maybe it was her laugh. Maybe it was the fact that the porch light had been on when he came home, though she hadn't mentioned going outside. Whatever it was, it brought him to the back door, to the trash can. He opened the lid, half expecting nothing, half hoping for something he couldn't name. Inside, beneath crumpled receipts and coffee filters, he found a paper bag from a burger place 2 towns over. They'd never eaten there. She hated burgers. He pulled out the receipt. One order. Double bacon. Extra pickles. She was vegetarian. Had been for 6 years. He stood there in the dark kitchen, staring at the ink-stained paper, the timestamp from 2 nights ago, and felt a peculiar stillness wash over him. It didn't confirm anything. It didn't scream affair or liar. It just didn't fit. Like a piece from a different puzzle jammed into place. That's when he heard her laugh again, faint through the wall, timed perfectly with the canned laughter of the show. It sounded like someone else's voice. Someone borrowing her skin. He put the receipt back, closed the lid, and returned to the living room. She glanced at him, then back at the screen. "You okay?" she asked. Her voice was light, effortless. Her feet were tucked under her just like always. Her hair was damp, not from a shower, but spritzed with something to make it look washed. He nodded once, sat down, folded his hands in his lap, said nothing, because now he didn't need to ask. He just needed to wait and watch, because the show wasn't on the screen anymore. It was right next to him. It was the shirt that ended it, the same gray Adidas shirt he found in the hamper weeks ago, only this time, he wasn't discovering it for the first time. He saw it being worn. Not in person, not in some dramatic confrontation, but in the background of a photo. An Instagram story, 15 seconds long, posted by one of her coworkers during a team brunch. She wasn't in the shot, not directly. But the angle caught a partial reflection in the polished glass behind the group. A man, seated close, one arm slung too casually over the back of a chair. He was wearing the shirt. Same bleach-faded collar, same loose fit. The kind of shirt no man borrows. The kind you leave behind in a place you think is safe. The story disappeared after an hour, but he screen recorded it immediately, cropped it, slowed it down, zoomed. Her coworker's caption was something innocuous, Sunday fun day with the work fam. But the timestamp betrayed it. Sunday morning. The morning she said she'd taken the kids to the park, that she'd needed time to reconnect with herself. She came home with grass on her shoes and a cup of matcha she claimed to have bought at the new organic cafe, the one she knew he hated. That same day, she'd kissed him on the cheek and asked if he was feeling more grounded. Her words exactly. More grounded. He remembered because he had smiled and said, "Yeah, you." And she'd smiled back, big, open, so convincing it almost rewrote the moment. Almost. But now he had proof. And it wasn't just the shirt. It was the placement of the chair. The fact that the man was seated where she should have been. That his coffee was positioned in front of the place setting with her initials monogrammed on the napkin, a gift he'd given her 2 Christmases ago. She'd brought them to work, said they helped her feel more elegant. That word again. Her words always came back like echoes. And now they tasted like rust. He didn't scream. He didn't message her. He didn't even breathe loud. He just stared at that frame, looping it again and again, every time with more precision. Then he shut his phone off and sat back in his chair, not as a husband, not as someone betrayed, but as something sharper, something colder. It was the way she had tried to be subtle that insulted him the most. Not her infidelity, that was base, predictable, human. It was the attempt to choreograph it behind layers of vague language and curated kindness. The weaponizing of healing and space and alignment to carve out hours, weekends, whole goddamn days with another man while pretending to be some enlightened version of herself. She had rewritten the script of their marriage, not by screaming or cheating loudly, but by slowly starving it of sincerity until it collapsed under the weight of her performances. And now that the mask had cracked, not fallen, but cracked, just enough for him to see through, he felt something uncoil inside him. No rage. No sorrow. Just a direction. A design. He started thinking in layers. Who knew her best? Who trusted her? Who would be hurt by her lies? Who she leaned on to maintain her image? Because that's what she cared about, not the affair, not the man, but the image. The curated story of being the self-made woman, the girl boss mom, the perfect wife who just needed space to find herself. That was her addiction. And now he would take it from her slowly, carefully, in pieces. He opened a blank document on his laptop and titled it The Plan. He began with a timeline. Every weekend she claimed to be busy. Every lunch she took solo. Every overnight work retreat with suspiciously vague details. Then he listed the people, the PDA mom she bragged to, her fitness group, the church circle she'd recently rejoined to be more spiritual. And of course, her social media, the pristine landscape of quotes about empowerment and filtered pictures of the kids. He'd feed the truth into that machine one detail at a time, like poison diluted into a stream. He didn't want an explosion. He wanted erosion. Slow, devastating loss. The kind she wouldn't even recognize until her world began collapsing in reverse, not from a confrontation, but from isolation. From trust bleeding away one person at a time until she stood alone in the wreckage of her reputation. And then, only then, would he speak. Only then would he deliver the final blow, calm, public, and absolute. Not out of revenge, but as a correction, an answer to her illusion of control. And as he typed, detail after detail, he realized, this wasn't heartbreak. This was strategy. This was the beginning of something surgical. She hadn't broken him. She'd taught him. And now he was listening, and watching, and waiting to strike. She came home late that evening, balancing takeout bags in one hand and her phone in the other, still laughing at something someone had texted her. "You wouldn't believe the day I've had," she said as she walked in, brushing past him like he was furniture. "The studio's a mess, and Sarah bailed again. And, oh, I picked up your favorite. Aren't I thoughtful?" She smiled like she hadn't just spent the day lying, like she didn't have anything burning under her skin. He stood at the kitchen island, silent, arms folded, laptop open in front of him. She finally looked up, sensing the stillness. Her smile faltered. "What?" she asked. Why are you looking at me like that? He didn't answer. Not yet. He just clicked play. The cropped, slowed-down clip from the Instagram story started looping on the screen. The reflection, the shirt, the man who wasn't him. Her jaw twitched. Seriously? She said, too fast. That's what this is about. A blurry video from someone's phone? You're being paranoid. He looked at her, calm. It's not the shirt, he said. It's that you forgot which napkins you used. The ones I gave you. Monogrammed. The ones you only take out when you're trying to impress someone. She rolled her eyes, exasperated. This is insane. You're going through social media stories like some jealous teenager. Are you listening to yourself? I am, he said, voice low. For the first time in months, I actually am. I hear how you speak now. The pitch in your voice when you're lying. The way you dodge by getting louder. And I've watched. I've listened. And I let you think I didn't know. She laughed, sharp and defensive. This is about your insecurity, not me. You've been acting off for weeks. I told you I needed space, and instead of giving it to me, you're obsessing over a reflection in a window? No, he said, walking around the island, stepping closer. I'm obsessing over the way you told our daughter you were taking her to the park, and then left her with your sister while you spent the morning wrapped around a man who owns that shirt. Her face twisted, a mix of indignation and guilt, and she crossed her arms. You have no idea what I'm going through. You don't ask. You don't care. Maybe if you paid more attention to me. No, he cut her off, voice rising now, but still clear. Don't you dare twist this. Don't you dare weaponize distance you created just to excuse betrayal you chose. I watched you build a new life in our house, a second world with second lies, all while posting pictures of the kids like you were still some kind of saint. I needed something that made me feel alive, she snapped, voice cracking, the first real slip in her tone. You became so cold, so predictable. I was dying in this routine, and he listened. And I was building a life with you while you were borrowing someone else's skin to feel interesting, he replied. You didn't want a husband. You wanted a stage. And I played the role so well, didn't I? The doting dad. The background character to your performance of growth and enlightenment. She started pacing now, the takeout bags still on the counter, forgotten. I didn't mean for it to go that far. He made me feel seen. No, he said, stepping in front of her path, his voice now the only sound in the room. He made you feel new. And that's what you chase, isn't it? Not love, not connection, just the thrill of someone who hasn't seen the worst of you yet. Her face broke for a second. Just a second. I didn't plan this. It just happened. I didn't think it would matter so much to you. You didn't think, he said, slowly. Because you assumed I was still the man who'd believe your smiles. The man who'd hear boundaries and think it meant you were healing, not hiding. Tears welled in her eyes, not because she was sad, but because the weight of his words was pressing her mask down, cracking it at the seams. She reached out, fingers trembling. Can we talk? Please. I can explain. No, he said. Not because I don't want answers, but because I already have them. I watched you lie so well, you forgot what truth sounded like. And now you think you can claw back sympathy because you're the one caught. She looked like she might collapse. Her lips parted, then closed, searching for another angle, another excuse, but finding none. Her shoulders dropped. So what now? She whispered. He stepped back, not walking away, just far enough to see her clearly, not as the woman he married, but as the one who built a fantasy on the ruins of his loyalty. Now, I let you sit in this moment. I don't scream. I don't storm out. I just watch. Because this is what you really wanted, isn't it? To be seen. And he stood there as she finally crumbled. Not because he yelled, but because he didn't. She sat on the edge of the couch, eyes wide and rimmed red, hands trembling just enough to betray her panic. The silence had stretched too long, and it wasn't the safe kind. It was surgical, heavy, the kind that comes after a body has already been cut open and there's nothing left to do but observe the damage. You're overreacting, she said finally, voice pitched high like she was trying to find her footing in a conversation she no longer controlled. It was just a phase. A mistake. You're blowing this out of proportion. He didn't blink. He didn't look away. She stood, walked toward him like closeness might soften the truth. Come on. We've had our problems, haven't we? You're not so perfect either. You shut down. You go quiet. You disappear into yourself and expect me to read your mind. Do you know how exhausting that is? He didn't move. Just watched her. You act like I'm the only one who's broken things. But this was already cracked before he ever came into the picture. Her voice was louder now, feeding off her own momentum, desperation shaping itself into attack. You think you're better than me? You think you've never done anything wrong? You walk around with your quiet judgment, your cold stares, acting like silence is strength. But it's not. It's cowardice. Still, he said nothing. She laughed bitterly. You're going to throw everything away because of a few months of confusion? After years together? After everything we've built? She looked around the room, as if the furniture could testify on her behalf, as if the walls might remind him of memories that could be weaponized. You'll never find someone who loves you like I did, she said, softer now, the edge gone, replaced by something that tried to sound sincere. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But no one will ever understand you the way I do. No one will stay like I stayed. He let that hang in the air, let her believe, for a breath, that she had opened a crack. Then he answered, voice low, each word deliberate. You didn't stay. You performed staying. You rehearsed loyalty while auditioning for a better audience. That's not love. That's calculation. She flinched, but he kept going. You say I disappear into myself. I did, because I was too busy trying to hold space for your chaos. While you were out finding yourself, I was here, picking up the pieces of the life you kept quietly shattering. Her mouth opened, then closed. He didn't let her speak. You talk about our problems like they're justification. Like my silence gave you permission to rewrite vows in someone else's bed. But here's the truth. You were never searching for love. You were searching for novelty, for mirrors that reflected the version of yourself you wanted to believe in. And when I stopped clapping for your performance, you called it neglect. Her tears came now, messy and real, but still framed by the instinct to manipulate. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just felt invisible. I needed something to remind me I was alive. He stepped closer. Not threatening, just near enough that she could see the absolute stillness in his face. Then you should have left. If you were that lost, you should have walked away. But you didn't. You stayed because the comfort was convenient. You stayed because it was easier to feed off my loyalty than to face what you were becoming. Her shoulders shook. She looked at him now not as a husband, not as a man, but as a verdict. Please, she whispered. We can fix this. We can try. Don't throw this away. He studied her. The desperation, the crumbling edges of her persona, the rawness she could only show when all the lies had failed. You keep saying we, he said. I steady. But we died the moment you started building a life that didn't include me, while using mine as cover. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm letting you sit with what you've destroyed. She looked around again, suddenly aware of the quiet, of how the house no longer protected her, how even the air felt foreign. Somewhere upstairs, their daughter was humming a tune to herself, unaware of the wreckage below. A neighbor across the street was pretending to water plants, glancing over every few seconds. The performance was over. The audience had shifted. Her voice cracked again, barely audible now. So what happens now? And that's when he went silent. Not because he didn't have an answer, but because she didn't deserve to hear it. Not yet. Not while she still thought this was a story she could talk her way out of. He turned away, not as retreat, but as refusal. The final, crushing act of control. Because in that silence, she realized the stage was gone. The spotlight had turned cold, and he would never be the audience again. It started with a text, just 3 words, I still love you. He read it without reaction, thumb hovering over the screen for a moment before pressing the power button and placing the phone face down on the table. 3 days later, it was a voicemail. She was crying this time. Really crying, the kind that sounded wet and uncontrolled, the way it never did when she was trying to manipulate. Please, she sobbed, just talk to me. We were soulmates. Don't let it end like this. He didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because he couldn't feel anything for her anymore. She was a phantom now, a name he used to say in his sleep. A pair of eyes that once lit up rooms and now couldn't meet her own reflection. Her fall had been swift and deserved. The gym circle? Gone. One of the moms leaked the story, the affair, the lies, the fake self-growth. The women she once called sisters cut her out like rot. Her job? That collapsed too, quietly, behind closed HR doors. It wasn't just the rumors, though those had spread fast. It was the fact that she used a company retreat to meet her affair partner, and someone upstairs had seen the receipts. He heard she tried to spin it as harassment. She always needed to be the victim. But the truth came fast, and it didn't come kindly. She moved out of the townhouse a month later, unable to cover the rent without dual income or the soft safety of a husband who still believed in her. She tried moving in with a cousin, but that didn't last. Word had gotten around, and her family, once proudly vocal about her resilience, now avoided her entirely. The last time he saw her in person was 6 months after the explosion. She showed up outside his office, thinner, pale, hair tied in a rushed knot, makeup smudged like she'd tried to look presentable and failed halfway through. She asked him to coffee. Said she missed his voice. Said she couldn't sleep without hearing the way he used to say her name. "I know I don't deserve you," she whispered, eyes locked onto his, voice cracking. "But I don't even recognize who I am without you. You were the only real thing in my life." He didn't flinch. Just watched her the same way someone might watch an old photograph fade under the sun. "You're right," he said. "You don't recognize who you are. But I do. I see you clearly now. Not as the woman I married. Not as the mother of my children. But as a stranger who used my love as a stage for her own performance." Her lip quivered. "So that's it? I'm just a mistake to you now?" He shook his head. "No. You were never a mistake. You were a lesson." Her breath hitched, a sound like something inside her breaking for real this time. And he walked past her without looking back, not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to turn toward. After that, she stopped trying to reach out. Maybe she finally understood. That forgiveness wasn't owed. That some bridges aren't burned, they're detonated. And when you dance on the edge of someone's loyalty long enough, the fall is yours alone. Now, when he thinks of her, it's like recalling a dream that ended in static, flashes of laughter, moments of false peace, and the slow, creeping realization that the warmth was always artificial. People still ask him what happened. Some whisper. Some wonder. He never gives details. He doesn't have to. The silence speaks for itself. And as for her, she lives alone now, in a small rental just outside the city. Her social media is gone. Her inner circle evaporated. She still sees their daughter once a month, supervised, scheduled. The little girl doesn't ask much about her mother anymore. Children know more than they're told. They feel absence like wine through a cracked window. And as for him, he moved on. Not to someone else, not yet, but to something better. Peace. Clarity. Life without pretending. And when people ask how he stayed so composed through it all, he just says, "Because she made me strong the moment she thought I was weak." Thanks for listening. Let me know where you're watching from, and what you would have done if it were your wife.